Okay, for this lab, we'll be creating an amortization schedule in Microsoft Excel. So go ahead and go to the Start button, open up Excel. And the first thing I would like to do is to increase the font size, so that way it's a little bit easier on the eyes. So to do that, you go under File, and then under Options, and then here under default font size we can change it maybe to 16, and then press OK, and then you'll need to close Microsoft Excel and then reopen it, so that way the font changes take effect. So go ahead and hit OK, close this out, don't save, then open up Excel one more time. And then now the cells are a little bit bigger and they're easier to see. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to name our sheets here in Excel. To do that, go here under Sheet 1, double click, and then we can change the name of this sheet to Payment or Payments. Then we can add another sheet, and here we'll call this one Loan 15, and then we'll call this one another sheet, create a new one, and we'll call this one Loan 30. Now make sure to return to the payments page or sheet, because that's the first one we're going to work on. So the first cells we want to create, I'm going to go ahead and just type them out here for you. So we're going to call this one Loan Term, and I'm going to give it a label for years. And then we can see that the cell is the text is going over, and it looks like it's in cell B1, but actually it's all the text is contained within A1. So what we need to do is we need to adjust the width of this cell. To do that, just double click between A and B, and then you'll get this double-headed arrow. So go ahead and double click it, and now the width of the column will automatically adjust itself, so that way the entire word fits on there properly. Okay, so then the next cell will be labeled Annual Interest Rate. And see, this we have the same issue again, where the text is going off into the other cell. So just double click, and now the width keeps adjusting itself automatically. This one we're going to call it Payments Per Year. Okay. Then we can skip one cell and go into A5, and then we're going to type Monthly Interest Rate, and then in parentheses the word rate. Okay, and then double click again, so that way the height keeps adjusting itself to the longest set of text. Then we need the number of payments, and then we're going to call this one NPER. The labelings here next to the words will help us when we're inputting these values into our formula or into our function. So then the next cell is Original Principal, and we'll label this one as PV. And then the last cell for this section would be Payment Amount. Okay, so then our values are going to go here, and then we're going to use some formulas to calculate the monthly interest rate, the number of payments we need. We're going to put the principal, the amount we're going to borrow, and then we'll use a function to calculate the payment amount. Okay, so here for the first loan, we want to see for 15 years. So just type 15. Then the annual interest rate will be 6.75%. Just type it in there. Payments per year, you pay monthly, so it would be 12. Okay, so now we need to see what the monthly interest rate is. So to get the monthly interest rate, we need to divide the annual interest rate by the number of payments. So to do that, click the cell. Then inside here in the formula bar, we're going to type equals. Then we're going to get the annual interest rate, which is located in B2. So just click on B2 and then you'll see that it automatically placed it in the formula bar. And then we're going to divide it, so it's / by the payments per year, which are 12. And then we're going to press OK. So that would be the annual interest rate. Oh, I'm sorry, the monthly interest rate. And then we can convert this this number into a percentage simply by right-clicking, then Format Cell, and then right now it's just a general number. We want it to be a percentage. So then we just enter under percent. Under the decimal places, we'll leave it the default and hit OK. Now it's 0.56%. Okay. Now the next thing would be the number of payments. So to do that, we're going to go under the formula bar. Then hit equal. Then we're going to multiply the loan term, the years. We're going to multiply that by the number of payments per year. So then hit OK. And then here we're going to hit the checkbox. So it's going to be 180 payments total. And then finally, the original principal is the amount we borrowed. So in this case, for our example, we borrowed $200,000. So it's going to be $200,000. And we can actually format this number to represent currency because we're borrowing money. So we can format the cell, then make sure it's under currency, and it'll put a $sign, and then hit OK. Now we need to figure out the payment amount. To figure out the payment amount, we need to use the function PMT. To do that, we're gonna click in the cell, and then we're gonna go here where it's labeled FX to insert a function. So go ahead and press that button. Then here under search for a function, we're gonna do PMT. Then hit go. And then here it'll be the first one listed, the PMT function. So then hit OK. Now we're presented this form, and we can fill out the information here based on what we've typed here. So to do that, we're going to, the first one is going to be the rate. So that's located in B5. So click on B5. Now we need the number of payments total, the number of periods, that's why it's NPER. So that's located here, it's 180, or it's in cell B6. And then finally we need the principal amount, which is located in B7. So go ahead and click there. And then you'll notice the result comes out negative. We can adjust that simply by typing a negative next to the B7 here under PV. And then now you'll see it's a positive number. Then go ahead and hit OK. And double click. And that's how you get the payment amount for 15 years. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is format our tables, give it a little bit of style. The first thing we want to do is we want to add a title to this. So we need to click on row 1, and then here you're going to right click and you're going to insert, and it inserts a row above everything else. We'll use this row to be our title for this particular table. So we can actually merge cell A and B together. So select both A and B, and then we're going to click here on the ribbon, we're going to click merge and center. Alright, so now we can use this as our title bar. To type text into this new cell that we created when we merged it, just go ahead and go into the formula bar and type in the name of the cell. We want to call it 15-year loan. And then press enter. And we can apply some styling to this title bar. First of all, we can make it, we can change the fill color on it. We'll make it black. But then now you'll see that the text disappeared. So then we can adjust the text color and we'll make that white. The other things we could do is we can actually draw out the borders for each cell. So select all the cells. Then go under here under the ribbon, under where the settings for the font are. Go ahead and click this down arrow, and we have different options for the border. We're going to want all borders. So click that, and then now you'll see the outline. The cells have been outlined. And the last thing we can do to format this table, here under the payment amount, we can format this cell using some of the styles provided by Excel. So we go here under the styles section, click the more arrow, then we'll pick for total, and now you'll see that it's been highlighted in bold and the font size has been increased a little bit and has this blue line underneath. So now there's more emphasis to the payment amount. Okay, so now that we have everything formatted, we can use the same cells and the same formulas to calculate the 30-year loan schedule, because all the cell references we used were relative. So to reuse this information, we can go ahead and select all the cells all the way from A1 all the way to B9. So just select all of that. Then here under the ribbon, select copy. And then we'll skip one cell. We'll skip A10 and then click on A11 and then right click and use the first paste option. The other options would only paste the values. Some of the other ones only paste functions. We don't want that. We want to paste everything. So use the first paste and click there. And then to get rid of these marching ants, there's the bounding box that's around this cell, you can press the escape key, and that would deselect those cells. So hit escape. Okay. Now all we need to do is simply modify a couple of values here, so that way we can use this table now. We can use it for the 30-year loan. So go ahead and select the 15 here on the title bar, change that to 30, and then under loan terms, instead of 15, now we want 30. When we do that, we'll notice that our monthly interest rate stayed the same, but now the number of payments have changed. Now we have 360 payments total, and the payment amount has changed. The payment amount is less, but you're paying it for twice as long. Okay, so once we finish with this, now we're ready to generate and create our first amortization schedule for the 15 years. So to do that, we'll go to sheet 2, which we labeled loan 15. So go ahead and click there. Then we'll start off with the labels for our fields, or our cells. So for A1, we're going to call it month. And then I'm going to put in parentheses PER, it stands for period. That'll help us when we're doing the calculations using the functions. And also keep in mind that the month here is extending to the next cell, so just double click, and that way the cell will adjust its width automatically. Then for B1, we're going to call it payment. Then for C1, we'll call this interest. Then this one will be principal. And then the last one will be balance. Okay, we can also format these cells here. Just select from A1 to E1. And then we'll apply the same styling we used on sheet 1. Go ahead and click here. Make the font white. Okay, so we'll start off with our initial balance. So for this month, for this period, we'll call it 0. And then here, rather than typing out the 200,000, let's go ahead and get the value from sheet 1 in case we decide to change the balance amount. We won't have to change it in 2 places. We'd only have to change it in 1. So go ahead and hit equals. And then once we have the equal typed in, go to sheet 1, which is called payments. And then you'll see that the payments sheet is now in the formula with an exclamation mark. Then the principal, the initial balance, is going to be here. So go ahead and click B8. And then once you have that selected, rather than jumping back to loan 15, go ahead and just press enter or the check mark, and now that amount, it'll take you back automatically to the sheet you're working on, but this time it'll obtain the value. And if you go back to payments here, if we would change this amount to, let's say, 300,000, hit the check mark, go back to loan 15, and then now you'll see that the amount changed to 300,000. But for our example, we'll go ahead and use 200,000. So I'm going to change it back, and then I'm going to return to sheet 2. Okay, now we'll need to figure out how much of our payment is going to go towards interest and how much of this payment is going to go towards the principal. So that way we figure out how much we're paying off each month until we reach the end of the term. And since we're working with 15 years on this sheet, the number of periods is going to be 180. Okay, so we'll start with A3, and that'll be the first period. The payment amount, we've already calculated it, which is under the payments sheet. So then we're going to press equals. Then we're going to jump to the payments amount sheet, and then we're going to get the payment amount from here. So go ahead and click under B9. And then before we press enter, the payment amount is always going to be the same every month. And that payment amount is located only on B9. So in this particular case, we'll need to use an absolute reference. So to do that, we can type here $sign next to the B, and another dollar sign next to the 9. And then that will make the column absolute and also the row as well. Now that we have that typed in, go ahead and press enter. Okay, so next we need to figure out how much of our payment is going towards interest. Excel provides a function to calculate this. So let's go ahead and click on C3. Then we're going to go to the function button. Now we're going to look for, instead of PMT, we're going to look for IPMT, for interest payment. And then hit go. And it should be the first one. So press OK. Now we have another form that we can use to get values or insert the values into this function. So the rate is located on sheet 1. So we need to go to sheet 1 called payments, and then that rate is here on the 0.56%. So go ahead and click that. Next, we need the period. This particular period is the period that we're in now. So this is the first period. So we need to click on loan 15. We need to click A3. And right now it equals 1 because this is going to be the first payment that we make, and this is the first amount of interest we're paying. Now the total number of periods, that's located on sheet 1. So then for NPER, we need to jump back to payments, and then we'll see here that the payments sheet is labeled with an exclamation mark. Then the NPR that we have, NPER, is here, is for the 180, the B7. And then the last thing we need is going to be the principal. The principal is also on the payments sheet, so return to payments, and then original principal PV is 200,000. So go ahead and click that. Okay, so before we finish, first of all, we notice that again we have a negative number, so we need to fix that. So go ahead and put a negative in PV. And the thing is, since we're using values from the first sheet, those values don't change. So the values for rate, NPER, and PV need to all be absolute. Rather than typing in the dollar signs for both the column and the row, we can simply click between the B and the 6, and we can actually press the F4 key, and it'll automatically adjust the cell reference. It'll make it absolute. So we'll do the same thing for the other three, NPER. So for here we'll press F4 as well, and for PV press F4. Now for PER, for period, this month is going to change. This value will change every month. So with the first month it's 1, and then the next month 2, 3, 4, 5. So we don't want an absolute reference in this case. So the only absolute references we need are for rate, NPER, and PV. Once you have all this set up, then press OK. And now the amount that goes towards interest has been calculated. Next, we'll need to do the formula to figure out how much of our payment is going towards the principal. Okay, to figure out how much is going towards principal, Excel also has another function, and this function is going to be called PPMT. So go ahead and click on D3, then go ahead and press the equal key. Oh, I'm sorry, not the equal key, the function button. There you go. Now we need to type PPMT, hit go, and it should be the first one, so press OK. Okay, so the rate again is located on sheet 1, So let's go jump to sheet 1. And then go ahead and click B6. Then the period that we're in is going to be the first one. So that's located in A3. Then the number of periods, that's also in payments, that's 180. And then the principal amount, which is here under B8, under the payments sheet. And then again, we're coming out with another negative, so make sure this, put a negative here in PV, and that'll make our value positive. Also, we need to make rate in PER and PV absolute. So go ahead and press F4. F4 for this one, and F4 for that one as well. So then once you're finished, go ahead and press OK. And now we have the amount that's going towards the amount that's going towards the principal should be subtracted from the balance. So in E3, the formula then will be, now here we'll type an equals, and we'll get our balance, which is located in E2, and then we're going to subtract the amount that went towards the principal for the first month. So that would be located in D3. And here we'll use relative reference, because when we autofill this formula throughout the entire sheet, we want the cell rows, the 2 and the 3, we want them to change depending on the row we're on. So go ahead and press enter. And this is the amount that is left to pay off in the first month. So only $644 went towards the actual balance. The rest of your payment goes to the bank. Okay, so once we have all our formulas set, now we're ready to generate the entire schedule. To do that, you would need to select A3 and drag this select all the way to E3. Then for to autofill, go here to the right lower corner, and the cursor should change to a black cross. Once that cursor changes, then just click and drag all the way down. And in this case, because it's a 15-year loan, the period is 180. So we'll go all the way to about 180. We're still missing a couple payments, but we can adjust it. But we'll notice here that these pound signs that come out, they represent the value. However, the value doesn't fit because the width isn't long enough. So to adjust the width automatically, simply click between D and E. Right? And then we still need the last two payments here. So go ahead and click on the corner again, and then autofill. And then now we'll see after 180 payments, our balance is now at 0. And then also we notice that at the last payment, only $9.90 went towards interest, and the rest was used to pay off the balance. If you notice here, as I went down and dragged through the different cells, that I no longer have the labeling for each cell, because those are located on the first row. To fix that, so that way we can, as we use the mouse wheel to scroll through the values, we can actually freeze the first row, so that way we can see the labels as we scroll through this through the different values. So we're going to want to click on row 1, and then under tab, then we'll go under freeze panes, and then we'll select the second one, which would be freeze top row. Once the top row is frozen, if we scroll through the values, now we see that the first row is frozen and it stays in place. So that way as we scroll, we know what's interest, what's the principal, and what's the balance. Okay, so to create the schedule for the 30-year loan, we're going to want to copy our cell labels. So we're going to copy from A1 all the way to E3. Okay, so we're going to select up to that point, and then we're going to go to Home. Go ahead and copy it. Go to Loan 30 page or sheet. Then under A1, right click, paste. Now adjust the widths. Okay. Now we'll see here that we still have the payment amount for 15 years and also the interest and principal. But if we make some adjustments to this formula, we can actually just reuse it for the 30 years. So if we look at, let's say here for B9, for instance, that's the location for the 15 years right here under B9. That's the payment amount for a 15-year loan. But here for the 30-year loan, the location is actually B19. So we can simply just go back to loan 30 and change this cell here, just put a 1 there. So that's now B19, and then press enter. And now we'll see that we have the payment amount for the 30-year loan. We can do the same thing for the rest of for these other two formulas. So for interest here, we go under payments, and initially our values are located at 6, 7, and 8. So then now for the 30-year loan, now the values are located at 16, 17, and 18. So we can go ahead and change that here. So for the first value here, that's 16, and then here under payments, that's 17, and then this last one is 18. So we're just adding ones to each value, and then press enter. And it's going to be the same thing for the principal as well. So then that's going to be 16, 17, and 18. Press enter. Okay. So then all we need to do is the same process we did before with the autofill, but this time instead of 180, since it's a 30-year loan, the number of periods is actually 360. So we'll go ahead and drag this all the way to 360. So here it's 200, 300, and then just keep going to 360. Okay, and then just double click to adjust the size. And then now we'll see after the 360th payment, we owe $0. And we can do the same thing for this sheet as well. Make sure we freeze the first row. So just go ahead and click, drag all the way to the top. Click the first row, the top row. Then under View, go to Freeze Top Row. And now we can use the mouse wheel and our labels stay set in place. And the nice thing about using cell references is that this schedule is dynamic. So let's say I go to payments, and let's say for the 30-year loan, I change my interest rate. Maybe I'm at 2%. And press enter, and then you see a lot of the values automatically change, right? So now that we have an interest rate of 2%, then let's go back to our loan 30, and we'll see that all our values change automatically.